I'm sorry, keep you waiting, I apologize.
Mayor, trustees, others that are here. My name is Paul Campagnola. I'm the Director of Transportation for Hayduk Engineering. We also have Stephen Hayduk, okay, our Chief Engineer and member of our firm. And Eric Jeter is another Director of Civil Engineering.
Wait. Play baseball?
Yeah, he retired.
My kids have 6 games this week, but
Yeah,
yeah.
there you are. You've heard that before too, right?
I'm retired.
Yeah, we told him
You're broadcasting now.
You've got to change his name here. But we've been working with Rebecca and some of the board members, okay, with regards to a potential project that the village is proposing here in the village of Port Jefferson. And right now, it's called the Walkability Study. And this slide is really not that good. Let's see here. Which one? This one here, right?
The right one.
Right. That's better, okay. It appears that what the village did was, in the past, is to take a look at how the village was situated, all right, with regards to your business center and also other areas which are outside and in the remote sections of the village, okay? And the idea with this walkability study, what we understand is that you wanted to bring some kind of facilities or improve on facilities that are existing now, okay, to allow others to either walk to the village back and forth and or bike back and forth or other non-motorized vehicles to use the system itself. That I think is a primary objective, is to do that, okay? And to do that, okay, you have to do other things, okay, and that's to provide the increased safety enhancement for non-motorized vehicles and pads on village roadways. And since you have roadways that are what we've seen, or what my experience is, you have 2 different types of roadways. Some have very wide right-of-ways, okay, a lot of pavement, and other roads have minimal amounts of pavement and minimal amounts of area where you put sidewalk in and such, okay? So what we have to do here is to develop some kind of a plan, okay, to address these different areas, okay, in the village, to bring them up more towards the current codes, what have you, for ADA and complete streets and what have you, okay? The other thing we want to do here is provide education for on-road safety, for the health benefits, be able to put in facilities that would be conducive of bringing people to areas to do like a bike rodeo, okay, and maybe your 6-acre park that you're doing might be a good location for something like that. Okay, we just looked at this quickly. Walk safe with the doctor. We're looking at other areas that would show that the health benefits for something like this would be very, very conducive of this type of a roadway system. In addition, we would incorporate traffic calming techniques and a complete street approach, which actually addresses not only vehicles but also pedestrians and non-motorized vehicles. The idea here is to develop we had originally an arterial roadway, but it's actually more than that. It's a multi-use arterial. Okay, that's what we want to present this as. Okay, not just for vehicles but for all users. This was the village's concept plan that we got from Rebecca with regards to the different areas that were, I guess, surveyed at one time, okay, to take a look at the locations that are remote from the village center itself. And this is what we would try to address, is to look at this arterial network and see if we can come up with some kind of a plan, okay, that would address as many of these arterials as necessary. the scope, how we figured on looking at this job, okay? What we wanted to do was just take a look at this thing, review it, and we were gonna photo log, okay, each one of these roadways. Take a look at the existing conditions, take a look at the grading, take a look at the right-of-way accessibility, see where other homes may be infringing on the right-of-way or very close to the right-of-way, okay? And see how we can get around those areas. If we can do something, okay, that's not too intrusive. I mean, you have to live with your constituents here, okay? So you have to be careful with this. But we provide a good platform to develop the roadway system itself, or the arterial system. We would develop a basis of design. Now that phrase is used in quite a few projects, okay, not only these small ones, but larger ones. And what it does is it sets up a format, okay, and basically a condition that you would try to meet on all of these roadways, okay? In this particular case here, since there's such a variance in what the right-of-way looks like and what the existing roads are, okay, there's gonna probably be a basis of design that's gonna be broken up into several design functions. What we'll do is, the best way to attack this is you can't look at you'll look at the whole system, okay, but you'll actually bring your attention to basically two roadways. That's what we're looking at, two different what we call candidate roadways that would differ, okay? One would be the ones with the larger right-of-ways where you can do other infrastructure improvements to help with the peds and the bikes and what have you. The other one would address areas where you need more consistent sidewalks or contiguous sidewalks. Because I know the village has tried to implement that. I can see that there was some new sidewalks that were poured, okay? But you have areas where the right-of-way, like I said before, is very constrained. Okay, we have to look at trying to open that right-of-way up a little bit to provide for more area for peds and non-motorized vehicles to use. Okay. Grant funding, with this administration in Washington, with this bipartisan agreement that came from the infrastructure, there's a lot of funding that's available, and a lot of these funding sources actually would probably apply here. And I think that if we look at it, okay, we could set up a program, okay, that would be able to fund, okay, what you want to do in the village to get this project moving along. It's going to take. It's not going to be that cheap of a project to do, okay. But if we break it down into sections that are actually doable, so your constituents can see something that works, that's what we would be striving for. My own personal experience, I worked on several projects where we were doing both pedestrian studies, okay, and a lot of them were for the colleges. One was for Stony Brook University, another one was Nassau Community College. We were actually looking at the areas of where pedestrians are walking from either parking areas or building to building or what have you. So I have a pretty good idea on how this sort of works. Also, I was instrumental in getting grant funding for two Safe Routes to Schools programs. One was in the village of Southampton Village, and the other one was in Uniondale. Okay, so I have an idea. Plus, my real background is in public works. Okay, I worked for Suffolk County Department of Public Works for 30 years. I was on the county's TCC, so I was on the Transportation Coordinating Committee, all right, where we were negotiating for funding, between Nassau, Suffolk County, the state, and the MTA. All right, so I do have familiarity with funding. So I think, hiring us, I think would be good. I think, we have a good overall background in this kind of work, and we know what you're looking for, and we're right up the block. Right up the hill.
Couldn't be any closer.
Yeah, we couldn't be any
Did you walk
closer.
here? Okay.
Our office is here 1,000 meters.
Yeah, no, it probably was when I counted down. I just have a general, is that the last slide?
It could be.
No.
Well, she's
Yeah.
answering
Yeah.
right on time.
The object is to connect and I'm just trying to clarify, connect, nodes or different districts of the
Right.
village to each other, and so when you showed that other mapping of the village, those were the main arteries that would be used to connect like downtown to like the country club or back
Right.
or uptown, correct? I'm just asking.
Right, you're
Okay.
correct, you're correct.
Alright, and then,
Yeah, can I
and-
do-
I'm sorry, and then you're looking, your suggestion is to select two of those, probably a narrow one and maybe
Yeah,
a
you
more
want,
accessible
you
one.
want, you want to show two plans,
Right.
okay? And what it'll be is, you'll have two different roads, I should say. Two
Right.
different roads, you have we're figuring on two alternatives on each road.
Mhm.
Okay, so you can go out to, like I said, go out to constituency and show them this is what we're trying to do.
Right,
That's the idea.
okay,
All right, being realistic about it, I mean, you live here, okay? The grades on some of these roads
Huh.
are very, very steep.
and on the narrower roads, the only way that you would probably be able to get the width that you need is to make them into one-ways, perhaps.
Yeah, that's
Um,
possibly what we would look at.
Right,
And-
parking on only one
Right,
side
Right, right,
it's
and that's
way-
why we wanna photo log these.
Yeah.
Okay, so we get a good idea of what's really out there, so we can just continuously look at it.
Okay.
Okay, to develop the plan, the ultimate plan.
Sounds good.
Yeah, Kavian and I have identified, worked together with them out and said, like, sort of what are these places that people might, people of all ages, so, school children, teens who might wanna be traversing the village, visiting friends on their bicycle, this and that, walking, are areas of interest that, the beaches, the country club, for residents who want to be more active, or, it's a one-car household, or whatever it is, how do we connect them and give them that safety, as well as, hopefully some of these methods contributing to traffic calming, which is endemic throughout the village.
And that's one of the things, is that on a lot of these roads, that are very, very wide, you can see speeders and what have you. So by constricting their lane widths and adding that excess width to like maybe a multi-use path along the roadway, to get bikes and peds off that roadway. Okay, plus you're bringing down the lane width, which is a proven traffic calming technique to slow the traffic down. Works hand in hand.
And it seems like throughout the village, things have been done on roadways that were the easiest. We can just add a sidewalk here, we have the property, or we have the width, or we can do the striping. But I think the benefit of this study would be to take those very difficult roadways and piece those now together, connect them with the ones that we've already taken care of for the quick fixes.
Yeah.
Come up with more
And
creative
let's face
ideas.
it, a quick fixes are the way to go right at the beginning.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying, because you get something done.
right,
Okay, with a minimal amount of money.
yeah.
Okay, if to do the whole thing, could be very expensive.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, but to do part of it, okay, that actually serves a purpose, and it's a safety issue that gets mitigated, I mean, that's wonderful.
And I think in one of our meetings, you had mentioned that we would be able to prioritize.
Yeah.
But it's not a whole big project all at once, that
Mhm.
we can say,
Yeah, well,
these streets are more important,
right,
and we can
exactly.
start small and expand it.
And that's what we would do, we'd set up some kind of a matrix.
Right.
Okay, and see how things fit in, so we can rate and rank these projects. Okay, so we can, like you said, we can come up with a priority, okay, but something that makes sense, that's the whole thing.
And is there some element in your scope of public outreach to our residents here? Is that part of what you would be doing to sort of help with that matrix of ranking importance, usage?
Yes.
I'm sure that there are a lot of places, a lot of homes in this village whose lawns go up to the street, and possibly those lawns are not their lawns. How do you?
Well, it's right away, but they maintain it for 50 years, so they think it's theirs.
So how do we handle something like that?
That's something we'll have to take a look at.
That's part of the
That'll be in that matrix on how that works.
And
You
public
don't want-
outreach.
Yeah, public outreach and what have you.
The perfect example is West Broadway, where it's a state road, they put the sidewalk there, and it was technically adjacent to somebody's property, but because it's at the bottom of a deep slope that's untouched, it was easy. None of the neighbors had issues with it.
Right.
But you can absolutely see when it's a, green lawn right up to the curb,
Oh, yeah.
they're not gonna
Yeah.
want a sidewalk running through their
Yeah.
property, so it's gonna be difficult.
And you do, you have a lot of that.
Absolutely.
And when you start looking at it, you really do. So
Yeah.
these all, like you said, this all becomes part of the matrix. And how
Trees
these
having to
things
come
fit in.
down. to
Yeah.
make way and, yeah, it opens up
Yeah.
all kinds of stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Vacation,
You mentioned,
SDG,
you mentioned a project that you did for Stony Brook University? Do you
That
have-
was working for Cooper Robinson, excuse me.
Yeah, their
They-
architectural.
Yeah, we worked as a, this is when I was with VHB.
Uh-huh.
We worked as a sub, okay, to look at the circulation plan there.
Barbara Chernow there?
Yeah, oh, yeah.
And what was the, just briefly, I'm looking to have a visual of like how that was, what happened and how it was resolved.
Well, it was funny, because I had left the firm before it was resolved.
Oh, okay.
Okay, but what was happening was, they were talking about the south parking lot putting in a multimodal center in the south parking lot,
Mhm.
okay, to bring traffic into the campus, mostly from there.
Mhm.
We were tying in the rail station on 25A,
Mhm.
okay, to be able to, people would bring their bikes on their trains, okay, out here and bike onto campus and
Gotcha.
what have you. But it was a substantial study over there at Stony Brook. And then at the one in Nassau Community College, that was a double study. One was providing additional parking, okay, for the students, as well as the pedestrian circulation between buildings and what have you. Okay, that one there, we ended up we built a new parking lot on the south side of the campus, okay, for about 600 more vehicles. And then we were adding additional sidewalks, okay, and cut-throughs where people were actually walking across the grass. That was easy to fix, because you knew when people were walking, so let's say a sidewalk there, so it was easier on maintenance and what have you. So,
And do you do golf paths, cart paths?
No, I like the idea that we can sort of have this study as the foundation of, all of the next steps. It doesn't have to all be done at once, doesn't all have to be the same. I think often we think of sidewalks as the pedestrian solution, but oftentimes it's something as simple as painting lines, or,
yes.
if you have a wide enough roadway, or, moving the curb a little bit and then painting a line. So, and there's even funding available for that, if I understand, so.
there is.
Almost like having a master plan.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Walkability master plan.
did any of those routes hook up with the New York State's bike path, or, because sometimes, 25A isn't our road.
Right.
If they're our roads, easier to control, but
Mhm.
if they aren't our roads, maybe sometimes there's better money involved or not, so it all depends, but
Mhm.
anything like that where you can leverage off of a state or county
Right.
resource,
Right.
you're
Right.
in much better shape, or a walkability program, there's tons of, well, hopefully there's good money out there, but you usually have to have your plan in place.
Yeah, you do,
And then
that's
you
the
get-
whole thing.
when the
And that's the
project's shovel
idea.
ready, that's when you,
Right, and that's the idea, okay, is to get basically get your foot in the door with
Yep.
that,
Yep.
for the funding itself.
Mhm.
And then things will start to flow in, and if people see things that are good happening, and they get if they get a lot of rise from the public, that's what you want.
Are you gonna break this up into phases, like identify, or how do you wanna do can't say all the roads?
No, sure. So my understanding was they'd kind of look at these different arteries and prioritize and
Yeah.
say these ones are the ones that are used most often, or, the low hanging fruit, here, like Myrtle Avenue is so wide, maybe you
Right.
can, just measure that, repaint the line, put the
Mhm.
sort of non-modal pathway there, and that's a quick thing. And, no one's gonna get upset about it, but then, lower down in the matrices, maybe you have, okay, this area we'd have to move the curb 3 feet into, somebody's lawn,
Right,
or whatever.
right.
And so those would become conversations over the course of probably 5+ years. But like Kathy Ann said, it's sort of a master plan too.
So the next step would be the study.
Yeah, so that's
Yeah.
what I'm wondering, how are you gonna do,
Yeah.
how do you wanna do this, just to give them a scope? Scope, village-wide areas?
Yeah, so, but
Well, I think the proposal, okay, really almost identifies that, right?
yeah,
Okay, on what our scope would be. And the first scope would be to look at all of the arterial roadways that Rebecca had mentioned.
so you're working on a proposal then?
no, I forwarded to everybody, like, I think it was a couple months ago.
Can you bring a copy, Paul?
Yes, I do.
Oh, there you go.
Can we make photocopies?
We got
Is
copies.
Rebecca, is this something that you would
We
marry
have enough,
with
Steve.
the resilience
Oh, okay.
project?
I mean, definitely, I think everything that we talked about, I have the resilience, project in the back of my mind, because we
Good,
shouldn't be
thanks.
spending money on things that we're then gonna have to amend or, change. In the, what's that?
Abandoned.
Or abandon, exactly, yeah.
Retreat funds.
Yeah, it's, but I mean, in a grand scheme, if we're, as a village promoting non-modal transportation, that's a good, resilience, not flooding resilience as we've been focusing on, but sort of the climate effort, to, and then I know we spoke too about the, increasing popularity of e-bikes, and motorized scooters and motorized, skateboards and all sorts of things, and so, that's, it's great, that people, again, of all ages are using vehicle transportation, but now how are we, we as a village and every municipality is now looking at how do we accommodate those types of semi-motorized vehicles on our roadways so that they're safe. So you'd be looking at that
Yeah,
as
definitely.
as well, sort of all these.
Yeah, I was only sent you the draft.
Yeah.
But like I was saying, we look at the whole, photo logging, the whole system, the proposed system,
Yeah.
okay? And take it from there on how we're gonna break it up, okay, based on the parameters that this matrix will talk about. I think it's a good project. I mean, nowadays, safety is a big thing too. I mean, that's an issue that's at the forefront of everybody's mind, so.
Well, the way this came about, and Kevin's been really instrumental in keeping these conversations going too, is almost every resident you speak to at some point says, we wish that we could, feel safer walking on the streets or biking on the streets, or my kids, getting from place to place. So this does seem like, we're bringing this to the surface in a holistic, large scale way, because this does seem to be a thing that residents in every corner of the village are
Right.
concerned about and would probably like to see the village take seriously.
And do you take, so in 2010 or 14, somewhere around there was a comprehensive plan developed with attention to the uptown area and a lot of the marine area, and I think there were a lot of walkable kind of discussion. Like it was addressed to some extent, especially in the uptown.
We'll take a look at that, okay? I know it's out there. I know that study's out there, okay? We would definitely take a look at that and see how we can incorporate that if it fits into what we're doing here.
Or, yeah.
That's the whole idea. I mean,
Yeah.
you do these studies and then nothing happens,
Right.
Yeah.
That's
Right,
like the
right.
worst thing, So what you wanna do is take those.
Libraries of those, yeah.
Yes, yeah.
So what you wanna do is take that information.
Yeah.
Okay, let's get it
It's
into
there.
this. Let's
Mhm.
get into this. Okay,
Yeah.
so at least that wasn't done just for the heck of it.
Right.
Just for paying a consultant,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, and that's, when we were talking, we're like, well, it seems silly to just focus on one road, or the commercial, like I know Lindenhurst had like a commercial district, walkability, study done, and that's nice, but, our residents don't live in the commercial district largely, they live outside of it, and they wanna be able to traverse and use, these streets, and so, it seemed like the more responsible way.
Oh, I think it is, yeah,
Way to go.
yeah.
Is there a tolerance for the board to put this on the agenda for tonight and ask for the funds to be appropriated out of parking and mobility? So there's no
Definitely.
impact to the operating account?
Yes, I have a
Sorry,
question
Kevin.
on this before you move forward with that.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kev, for raising some money with parking and mobility.
My pleasure.
I'm sorry.
She
I just had a
did give you a
question.
shout out.
On that proposal, under funding, it says prepare basis for grant funding. What does that entail or include?
What that's gonna do is, I wanna look at some of the recent programs, okay, that have come out, okay, to see which ones will fit this.
So
Yeah.
you would identify,
Yes,
under this scope,
yes.
you would identify them?
Yes.
Okay.
you will.
And which grants those opportunities might fall
True.
into?
Yeah.
So we have actually documents
I
to.
think they'd be.
Yeah, that's the whole idea, that's the whole
Right.
idea.
So just to clarify, so we're looking at the whole arterial map, you're doing the matrices based on all the roads we're speaking of,
Mhm.
but then from that, you're gonna pick two.
2 candidate roadways.
Right.
Okay,
2 alternatives on each. Each candidate roadway will differ from each other. Okay, so we'll see what how we approach the rest of the network.
Sure.
That's what we wanna do.
And
But
for-
we'll have a matrix of all the other,
of all the others, and
you'll
the-
have gathered all the data.
yeah.
Mhm.
And for those two roadways, are those more or less, not, you know, either shovel ready or projects that are ready to be put forward to grants?
That's,
That-
yeah,
it's-
up to you
that's
guys.
what we wanna, that's what we
Yeah.
wanna do.
Yeah, okay.
You know, so we can get something going like immediately.
Perfect.
Sorry.
Or as fast as the grant system works.
Yes.
As you must know.
2 years, quickly.
Oh, God.
So, to any of the three of you, please, just what is the general climate of granting opportunities for what we're talking about? And what is your firm's experience in going right through to the end on getting granting for what you might be proposing? Is that something you would go through to the end? I realize we have to be involved in it, but
Grant
That's
manager.
a-
You do, okay, you have to be involved.
yeah,
in it,
I
okay?
understand
There's
that,
no
but
two ways
driving
about
it along has been something we could use
Yeah,
lately.
yeah, and
Oh, so
that's,
they would administer
Yeah.
and actually.
yeah,
And so what's the
Exactly.
general climate of granting it on walkability type things?
yeah, right now is pretty good, like I said before, I mean, with this administration's infrastructure bill,
Mhm.
okay, there's a lot of grants out there, and a lot of it pertains to safety, okay? And of course, resiliency, what have you, climate change, what have you, but also safety. So I think that I'm pretty confident there's probably programs out there that we can just move along with it.
Is there usually expirations tied to these types of things?
They
Yeah.
could, the administration could do that,
Yeah,
okay, but usually it's on an annual basis.
Yeah, it's like keeping your listing up to date kind of situation.
Right, right. Because a lot of it is through the consolidated funding grants program, okay, which is it's one like a blanket, application that the municipalities put in,
Mhm.
okay, and a lot of the times that's where the state is picking off of.
And just
Okay.
a question, if you're gonna do the underlying work and submit for the grant, you know, we obviously do this formal grant submission,
Mhm.
are you then precluded from bidding on the work?
I don't think so in this case, no.
And why, cause you're an engineering firm and we get to select who we wanna work with, or?
I think what it is that you're selecting us, we're providing a service for you.
Right,
Okay,
so long as
it's
it's
not-
competitive bidding, then you're
Yes.
okay,
Mhm.
okay. We just had that with some other situations, but
Yeah, no, it's tough.
don't wanna put you out of the box.
I appreciate that.
Right, exactly.
Don't block the box, right?
Right.
I think it's a great start to,
I think it's
you know,
gonna
I
be a
think you
good
guys can
program.
identify a couple of roads like right off the bat, and
Mhm, mhm.
We did even discuss some in our last
Yeah.
meeting.
but the narrower roads and the ones that, you know, the ones that sometimes already have the sidewalks, but there's still traffic
Mhm.
congestion, cause you have already, you know, two-way plus parking on one side and a
Right.
sidewalk. You can start thinking about if you wanna do a one-way grid up and through, like spring
Sure,
tunnel,
sure.
high, make High Street more walkable.
Mhm.
I don't know, it's great, I think it's good.
Cool.
So-
No, and this is, have you ever had and this is the mayor's suggestion, a resident committee or task force sort of work alongside your work so that there's like resident input, or do you mainly work with a board?
Usually the board
Yeah.
will have a committee, and that committee is usually the one that works with us and the constituency.
Okay, so it's a liaison essentially.
I mean, the idea is you're hiring us, okay, we become like basically part of the staff.
Nice.
You know what I'm saying, that's really what it is, okay, so, you know, if you need us at certain times, you know.
Great.
Yeah, I mean, we're happy to join a public meeting.
Yeah, exactly.
But you
We
wanna,
do it all
you wanna
the
get the study and the facts together.
Right. Yes,
So that
before.
so we're having an educated discussion, because if
Yeah.
we let the public steer how the study goes, it won't go anywhere.
Yeah, and
No.
so maybe it's appropriate, once the study is done, to then have a committee of,
Yeah, you gotta
committee of
collect your data
residents
first and road
to say,
conditions.
this is the matrix, you know, now what do we wanna do with this? So
Yeah,
that
right,
makes
that's
sense,
waiting
yeah.
until after we have some data. I've done it the
Right,
other way
right.
around,
Yeah, it
and people
doesn't
just
work.
walk away confused.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
there's gonna be a tipping point where we have two candidates or two things that are very similar in terms of what the analysis shows and the data shows, and then at the end of the day, somebody has to choose. And you know, with the board and the public getting some input, that might be how we make that decision.
Very good, thank you.
But to decide over, you know, if we break this down into 200 segments,
Yeah.
and then we say, which ones do you want us to do, it's just gonna be a
Yeah.
pop
Yeah,
mark
we
of,
get the cons- you know,
nothing
we get the
happens.
consensus, it just doesn't
I
work.
appreciate that, yeah.
That's one more question before we move
Yeah,
on.
that's okay.
Can we make sure or add into this street signage? And the reason I say that is because, you know, the speed of the road, the signage on the road, then if there's too much clutter of signage on the road, can we add that
That
to
could be part,
this?
yeah, that could be part of the matrix. Okay,
Yeah,
you know what I'm
please,
saying?
because
Mhm.
sometimes we're littered with signs and
Oh,
therefore
yeah.
no signage is good because nobody's
Well-
reading
Well,
anything,
that's
or
what happens.
the
They
type of
get
signage
so
could be
busy,
better
they
to
don't
slow
even
everybody
see it
down.
anymore.
Right.
That's the quickest fix that I always get asked, well, can you just put up a sign, can you just put up a
Mhm.
sign, and
Mhm.
then it's like sign upon sign, like the mayor said, it becomes like, just, people become deaf to it.
Yeah.
But I mean, while you're out there taking, you know,
Oh, yeah.
doing all
Well,
this
that's
measurements.
what it is, I mean, it's gonna be photo laws, so that's like an
Yeah,
easy
great.
task.
Okay, good.
But one of the things you think of, okay, if you do contract us and you do move forward with this, think about what we can use as a name of the project, and maybe use it to host trailblazing signs, okay? Something that shows people what is part of this whole system that we're developing.
We could do another public survey once the study's done, like
Name it, the name.
yeah, the naming. A
I mean,
street,
it's another,
street
it's another
face.
sign,
We
sorry.
did that for our street, our new street uptown.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But I think
Okay.
that's
Became
important.
this-
Give it some
the
idea.
name that we've already been
Yeah,
calling it, but we got some fun suggestions.
Yeah, because new signage would be nice, I mean, you know, to say this is a safe new road to walk on, it gives them
Right,
that
exactly.
creates an identity.
Maybe even like a path, like.
Sure, like the Portchester Greenway kind of equivalent,
Mhm.
yeah.
Different trails, follow the yellow signs to go this
Right,
way, and
there
the
you
go.
green
Right,
signs to go this way, or.
Right to the beach,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, that's what you have to think of, I think that makes it better, that makes it a better project, gives more
Brainstorming sounds
identity, and
good.
people
Sure,
feel
yeah,
good
yeah.
about it.
Make it fun.
Excellent.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
Thank you very much,
Thank
thank
you.
you all.
Oh,
Thank
thanks
you.
a lot.
Thanks,
Paul.
Thanks a lot,
Appreciate it.
thank you.
All right,
Hopefully
so
we
long.
talk
Take
again.
care. See you later. Thanks, Paul.
Thank you,
Thanks, Paul.
thanks, thanks for having us.
Thank
Yeah, thanks for all the work.
Next time, bring your bike.
I know.
Sorry.
You know they're good because they chastised me when I got out of my car coming here. They're like, why didn't you walk and ride your bike? Like I was checking in, yes, but.
Was that?
Should we leave some cards? Does anybody want direct contact?
Because it's
or-
uphill on the way home.
No, I love walking the hills here. That's my, I don't have a gym membership because I live in the
You been to my house lately?
Yeah,
That's
I,
right.
no, I
Thank you.
love it because I'll go walking with Kelly.
Oh, yeah,
So I walk
yeah,
up and I meet her and then we're all up and down.
Thank you.
over there.
Sure thing. All right, thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Jared.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Kevin.
Alright, so let's move on to the business portion of the meeting. And our first order of business is to approve the minutes as presented by Clerk Sakovich.
And Kevin, thank you again for coordinating.
Say again.
Thank you again for coordinating.
You're welcome.
Oh, you're doing the
Absolutely.
agenda,
Barbara, the public comment period is open until the 21st? 22nd, okay, good. Alright, so we're still, that's why there's no, on the public hearing, there's no action item on that. Just, you know. Alrighty then.
I stated in there that
I'm
it's
good
open
with the
until
minutes.
May
Yep.
2020, May 20.
No, yeah, I was just
Yeah.
going back here and I saw
Yes.
this open, so.
Yeah, put it in the top.
Okay, any comments, additions, or corrections to the minutes of May 1? 2, 3, and 4, and 5 actually look like new hires or rehires, and Barb, you wanna walk us through those just quickly, you have all your paperwork?
Mary has all of the paperwork, yeah, they're all, country club, Bridget, Pat, rehires and new hires. The only, there were a few salary increases that Pat requested for, the 4 of them are laborers, and then Naomi is the custodian
Uh-huh.
that took on the responsibility to clean, the bathrooms
Okay,
at the beaches as well.
which is great, cause that frees up the other employee that was doing it from the village center, the
Correct.
custodian, cause we used to have
Correct.
2 custodians, we only
Correct.
have 1.
And the one custodian we have didn't do that responsibility last year since he came after this summer, so this was a big help.
And typically they're young people who work down at the beaches, they can't clean the bathrooms?
No, Renee said no, her, whatever you call them,
Each attendance?
For attendance, yes, good, thank you.
This person gets in there first thing in the morning and they'll continue to do like,
Replace
you know,
paper or things like that, but not.
throughout the
actual
day, but they're not doing
cleaning.
the deep cleaning
Not
that these
cleaning.
facilities need.
Mhm.
I mean,
Yes.
it's something else sometimes in the morning when you get in there.
Naomi is great too.
Good.
She's amazing.
She's extremely good.
Okay, cool.
Unfortunately, these bathrooms have taken a little bit more abuse than we'd like. Appearance stick an ATO, new ATO.
Yes.
Are you guys, you gonna give us an update and exact, or are we going to do that on your interviews?
Yes.
Okay, good. Stan, we have your proposal now and Rebecca from the golf design people, is this for the pond issue that you were talking about before, is that correct?
Yes, you
Okay.
have the proposal from the architect. You do not have a proposal from the engineers.
Grosser?
Mhm.
Are they still, what are they waiting for? I mean, do we know? Are they still taking measurements or something?
They haven't been back. I think they did a flyover
Yeah,
and they made
Oh,
a
okay.
topo map
yeah.
to give
Okay.
to Doug Smith,
Okay,
so Doug could come back and kind of locate where the ponds could go.
okay. So they probably need his design before they can engineer
They
it?
do.
Okay. Anybody have any questions on Mr., we've used Mr. Smith, right? He did the course
entire
master plan, right?
redesign of the
Yeah.
golf course
Yeah.
11 years ago.
Yeah,
That price he gave us, I think, is pretty darn good for the amount of work he's gonna have to do.
good, yeah, okay.
And he'll present to invited or entire membership. That's
What was that?
he'll present to the membership.
Oh,
And having a couple more water features would be really nice for the course.
That's what you ask.
Right, yeah.
It won't work if we don't get some rain, though.
Yeah, gotcha.
Well, we got so much rain. That would have been
Yes.
last
Well,
week's.
that- yeah, it was good for a while.
Yeah.
5 inches in 2 days. But, Barb, are you gonna have more election hires? Cause,
we already hired all of them,
So,
we had
yeah,
a
so
while
Maureen is-
ago, so somebody dropped out.
oh, okay, so you have your set number?
Yes,
Okay.
my set, exactly, I have my set, we did that, I think, a month, 4 to 6 weeks ago,
Yeah,
somebody
okay.
dropped out, so Maureen was a holdover.
Great. Well, they certainly know what they're doing.
Yes, she
helping
is,
us.
she's a repeat.
Do we have a, not to bring up this touchy subject again, but don't think we're gonna have any primaries.
That's correct. There are 2 primaries on the east end that don't implicate,
There's a solid chance we will get our boots after all.
yes,
After all,
yes,
that's,
yep,
wrestling in the.
yeah, yep.
Yay! Yay for everybody.
you.
Nobody wants a long night.
Barbara has been bribing candidates not to run in
Right.
primaries. Yeah.
Waive your primary, right?
Yeah. Just go next year.
And so then we also are, recommendation to move the last board meeting to the 26th instead of the 21st, which is the eve of election, so that we can all have clear minds and.
It was actually the day after the
Yeah,
elections
yeah.
because of Juneteenth, and then
Oh, right,
that was
Juneteenth is-
Monday.
right, right.
Tuesday was the election, we had done for
Monday
the
is
Wednesday,
Juneteenth,
but
which is a,
yes,
a village holiday, so, okay,
yeah, so.
thank you.
I think that gives
To
us
the
some
next
breathing
Monday,
room.
yeah.
And they are, that's an official holiday in the contract.
It's not official in the contract because our contract isn't up in renewal until next year, but it will be a side agreement like we did last year.
Okay, alright. All right, so, oh my God, you people are killing me. Another public hearing for June 5th. You kidding? We have a public hearing already on June 5th, and that is for the parking on Brook?
To remove the parking and
Right.
add the parking, yes.
And so now this is for a stop sign on Old Post Road West, which is Liberty and, oh my God.
Old Post and Liberty.
Yeah.
Old Post and Liberty.
Because Liberty jogs up the hill.
Yeah,
It only has
one
the
side
one,
has a
it
stop
only,
sign.
exactly,
Down the hill, so this
exactly.
would be coming up.
Heading east, there's one,
and
but
Steve recommends a stop sign going
He
up the
does.
hill.
He actually
He did.
did.
yes, he
So,
does.
yeah, we
I can't even believe that.
he
right?
did,
does.
I have the
Yep.
email.
I
Because in
agree
the
as well.
morning, that is gonna back up all those parents come up that side, that road to
I
drop
know, and if
kids
it's
off?
icy and he won't give us,
So the issue was the community Village Vistas
yeah,
and multiple complaints of them having a hard time. And in fact, I believe there was an accident, a pretty bad T-bone at that intersection because
the people going,
they
right.
don't realize, they don't see or they don't realize that the people coming up the hill don't stop.
It's weird
So
to
they
have,
go and then get hit.
it's weird to have a two-way stop on a three-way intersection.
Right.
So like even as a pedestrian, when we're walking, we're not
Right.
sure, you know, like sometimes
Right.
people stop anyway, sometimes they're
Yeah.
speeding there because they're like, haha, I'm gonna take my nose
Yeah.
off sign.
But he's usually very concerned about having
The
a
hill.
stop sign at the top of the hill.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
People
but he
get
said
stuck.
in this case, because of the accident, also the children crossed the road to go up that hill. A lot of kids live up there and
Yeah.
there is a crosswalk, but if they don't realize somebody speeding up the hill isn't
Yeah.
gonna stop, it could be tragic, so.
Okay, well,
Because of all those reasons,
in all my
yes,
years, I'm glad to see it happen now.
yeah.
I mean, our
Those are the
years
reasons.
collectively, right? I mean,
It's,
it's like,
it's a going away present.
no, I'm just saying, it's glad it's happening now. I mean,
Yeah.
we've had a lot of kids walking to school over the decades. All right, and then we just we added number 10.
We added there's something wrong, we have two number 9s because our formatting, we're having a problem.
look at
So
that.
this, we have 11, which is now the approval of the Hayduk walkability study,
Okay.
yes.
And then the warrants as presented, which I have reviewed, and then, and we have Mr. Carlson's sign off on that, so that's, any other action items for today's meeting? No, okay, motion to approve 1 through 11? Moved by Staden, seconded by Cassay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, just, for me, big thing is the, update for the bluff, we're just gonna give one anyway, but,
I
cause we have a,
got a big one. I have a big update on the bluff, if you wanna wait. I was there this morning with the engineers and with Laura.
why were you there today? Cause you were locating fencing, right? I mean, go ahead.
No, I was invited up there by Tom to
Mm-hmm.
join the crew on the walkthrough.
Yeah, okay, and they were, so basically, go ahead then, Stan.
I have things here to pass out.
Do you wanna give your update and then that'll bring Stan in around
Yeah.
his?
I was just gonna say, like, you know, we're in the final stages. One of the things we discussed last week, was because phase 2 isn't starting at the same, you know, we're not folding right into phase 2. We had to do some, look at the plans and do some modifications on fencing. Make sure we're keeping everybody away from the edge, right, cause we don't have the second wall. So I think that may have been what sparked the walkabout. But, you know, so I'm anxious to hear what Stan has to say about this.
Here's a bunch of stuff.
It's coming along really, really nicely. One of the things that they had to do is they had to, you know, you had the bluff like this, and what they did is they scaled everything back, so they're giving it a little bit more, you know, less of a drastic angle.
Yeah, you got it.
Did I say it right?
Yes, angle of
Single
approach.
page, there's a single
Science.
page, there's a double page.
Oh,
If you say it enough times, it just.
Are they two different?
Wait, what did you say? What was
Without-
exciting?
what are you,
The-
you
the-
remember the 4 tennis courts?
What was the exciting?
The angle of repose,
Angle of repose.
is the term for the sort of where the sand will be much more likely to stay as opposed to
Naturally stop.
Yeah, since the angle of that wall has changed quite a bit, it gave it back an awful lot of that lower complex.
Yeah, but you still have to take parking away of the lower lot, so you guys can make this decision, you know.
We haven't made any decisions
No,
about
I know,
tennis.
but I mean, we had a, it's okay. If you can fit 4, great.
But this is the lower one, not the one
This is
with the
the lower.
pickleball.
I'll remind you.
We're still not going into the, we're not extending where the other tennis courts were on the west side?
The upper side, no.
Okay.
They didn't change anything on the upper side. But this was a radical change on the lower side.
Okay, so this is, let's just do the bluff, right? Cause you're getting into something that is future, and until we secure the 3.75, you know, and you guys, Denise and you are.
Okay, the plantings on both sides
Yeah.
have been done, and they're beautiful. I've got a bunch of pictures on my camera if you wanna take a look at them. They've set up watering stations at the top of the bluff. The east side is already really greening up. The west side, they've just started to water. The section that's directly below the building, according to DEC, cannot be touched at all. There's pretty good vegetation there right now, and we can't touch it. The rocks along the ramp are going to be placed and completed by the end of this week.
They're back at the bottom of the hill now, right?
Mm-hmm. Complete cleanup is going to be finished by May 26th, and they're going to be gone. Which could present a problem for us if we keep being delayed with FEMA, if they have to restage. The fencing situation on the lower side, where they took out the double gates at the front of courts 7 and 8, they're putting fencing back in there. And then they're gonna put a fence from the corner, like it says here, the northeast corner of the building to the edge of the bluff. They will be putting a fence in there so nobody
Right,
can,
to keep
nobody,
everybody from-
right, nobody can get near that area. The upper side, the fence is gonna close the opening at the end of court 4 that they opened up to bring the trucks in. They feel that the fence that we put up that goes back towards that ravine is adequate on that side. Again, the beach parking lot is gonna be cleaned and prepared, ready to use by June 1st.
July, oh great, June 1st, yeah.
It's 26.
Yeah, I read July for the before, it's too long. That's exciting.
The whole parking lot?
Yeah, up here.
Down, yeah.
The 26th,
Yeah.
then they'll clean up. Perfect, done.
Yeah, Laura was at the meeting, Chris from Terry, 2 engineers from Terry, myself. We walked both sides. If anyone is interested in some pictures, here's a picture of that's a little video that shows the plantings, and there's also seedings in there.
Awesome.
They had extra
Yeah.
plants that they're giving to us up for the side of the hill, right?
Right,
Good.
right.
Are they putting them in?
I didn't ask that question.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
Okay.
Go Stan, I'll see your video and raise you a photo. A sailor friend took this from the water.
Wow. Where's the sailboat?
He's on it.
It's beautiful.
It's a thing.
It's impressive.
Yeah.
Try to keep
The
zero.
slope is, as he explained, it's 45 degrees. It's a 12-12 pitch, which is, originally I thought it was gonna be like 30 degrees. It's pretty steep. If you look at it from the top, I wouldn't wanna try to walk down it.
Yeah, you just gotta keep.
From the water, it looks less steep.
Yes, I know.
It does.
Mm-hmm.
I would suggest for the 4th of July, though, we have plenty of constable coverage up there, because the temptation is gonna be to go out onto those somehow. People
Send
will,
it to me.
From the top?
the upper courts,
Taking full control.
Did you?
the upper courts.
Oh, somebody requested that we allow people to go out there.
Oh my
No, that's
God,
only when the
never
sports
happened.
complex is done and that they could be on the sports courts. That was Stephen, who's this? Oh, that's.
I think it would be silly to let people go
Yeah,
out
it's a
there.
mess right now.
No, it's.
No.
It can be locked, no? Can we lock that?
It's all locked
Gated
up.
off now.
It's all locked
Yeah.
up. But if people wanna go down through the woods next to Billy's house and come around, they can do it.
Yeah, so we need no trespassing signs like everywhere. And Kevin, hi,
Hi.
how you doing? Guess
to
what I'm
see
gonna
you.
ask you for?
Not
Yes.
signs.
No trespassing signs, did you say?
I did, but I'm not gonna ask you about the
Right.
signs, cause that's a different department. I'm
Yeah,
gonna
that
ask
is.
you about cameras.
But, oh,
Is there any way that we can get a high zoom tilt on the
we,
west, northwest end of the building?
so we just took the northwest camera and brought it to the southwest side because this thing's happening there. We just moved the camera from there. So ultimately, is there another pole going up, or are you saying right away you want it?
I would love
And
to.
do we have the right to put it on that building?
Well, of course we do.
Yeah, we do.
Okay. So the,
Yeah, I would
yes.
love to get one that's gonna capture the bluff, you know, so if we can see, you know, people
Like a
traversing.
180.
Yeah,
Sure.
The new one that we put up will catch the people going around the other way.
yeah,
Sure. Yes.
yeah, so, you know,
There's a modem in
you
place.
want a 180 viewpoint of that bluff.
Right.
And no trespassing, trespassers.
Or keep out, yeah, I don't think trespassing is enough really, I think it's like keep out.
Well, is there enough
Danger.
teeth in the code for anybody who
Yeah,
doesn't keep out?
yep.
Sure. I would recite the section of code and that enforces now.
Yeah, I'll work it out.
Okay,
I
good.
saw, along the Belle Terre stretch of the bluff, there are many signs now saying, you know, don't go on
Yeah.
the bluff, whatever they say, and I guess I question the effectiveness, and then also there's just like it's so subtracted from the beauty of the beach, you
Yeah.
know, I would just, keep that in
No,
mind.
it's worth
You know,
mentioning.
you're walking along and now every, like 15, 20 feet, there's like sign, and so you're just kind of, it's not
So,
that you call it.
Are you mentioning the signs at Centennial?
Those as well,
They're-
but at the bottom of the bluff of Belle Terre, the Belle Terre portion of the beach is just a lot of signs.
There's other ways to do it where it's just more aesthetically pleasing.
So, FEMA had received everything from us, and then they had 2 questions about the readiness of the project, and we have some language, very brief language that we're putting together saying, yeah, we're waiting on you.
It was sent to them today.
Good.
We answered and sent it to them.
Good, so saying like, yeah, we already finished phase 1, so they're like, we understand this is part 1 of 2, we're like, yeah, we just finished 1, here it is again, like, come on, so, but I think that was a good sign, because it shows that that there is project readiness, but yeah, that's, the phase 2, when it was bid on when it was put out to bid, it wasn't, you know, wasn't anticipated that, you know, you would roll into phase 2, it was bid as a standalone, but we're hoping that we would have gotten some benefit from not having to mobilize again, but we'll see. You know,
I did ask them how long it would take from start to finish once we started.
yeah,
6 to 8 months. So tennis is totally out of the question anyway until spring.
yeah, and honestly, that's the, if it lines up so that this is being improved and done again in the fall through the winter months, that's the best time to be doing this work at that facility anyway.
Worked well with the water.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
All right, thank you, Stan.
Thanks,
Thank you very
Dan.
much.
Do we have sort of a plan or a plan for the
We will start a new plan for the plan now because the wall has been changed. The plan for the upper side is pretty much set in stone. I mean, it was designed by,
Sorry, over Stan's head, I saw a kid going up to climb on
Yeah,
that
a
anchor.
kid was
and I'm
climbing
thinking,
up.
do not climb on that anchor.
is there a sign there?
The beauty of
There's no
life,
sign.
no.
See.
Right, yeah.
Danger.
That's Dan
Insane.
Smith.
Probably just electrify it. Okay, off the record. Sorry, stay off.
that's okay.
These are the things you can say now that you're heading out of office.
No, I mean, you know, stay on.
The upper courts have been designed by the engineers,
There you go.
so
Kind of bluff.
we should all have a copy of this someplace in our folder.
Yeah.
But the lower side is up in the air. I'd love to
Well,
put
it was
in,
minimally 2 if you could get 4.
I'd love to put in 4 Hartrue courts down there. I've been approached by a great number of former members. World Gym is closing and being sold.
I know.
Oldfield has a cap on their membership. We would be primo.
Slammed up.
We're even thinking about possibly signing up members ahead of time in anticipation.
Wow,
You fill it quick.
it's good.
They're looking for places to go play tennis.
There's gonna
Are
wanna be,
4
there's gonna
courts
wanna.
enough?
Well, there would be 5 4 on the bottom side and an instructional court up top, which can be used to play tennis on, but it's gonna be a hard court.
There'll be pros wanting to do lessons as well,
Yes,
because they have nowhere to teach in.
right.
And
But we'd like to have more, but I don't know where we would put them.
the material that we're using for the courts does not need to be watered, or does need to be watered?
Hard-true needs to be
Watered.
wet down.
Twice a day.
And we've talked to the engineers about that as far as
Mhm.
saturating the bluff.
It's not gonna castrate the bluff according to the drainage systems they put in there. I mean, all they do is wet down the, you know, Margot knows how much, it's
Because
just
it soaks
spritz.
in, right? The
They
material
s- they
soaks it
spritz
in.
it.
Sure.
Yeah.
It is a lot more expensive to maintain the hard true.
It is, it is.
And, but the members are really gung ho on hard true because it's easier on their knees.
I saw we got that email.
Mm-hmm.
They were upset about the hard true or it not being hard true?
Not being hard true.
So what is the alternative, like concrete?
It's a-
Asphalt.
It's asphalt with a velvet
Asphalt.
seal
That's good,
on
Brian.
top.
Or the turf, astroturf that we have out
You
here.
know, it might be something that you think about saying, look,
School has asphalt.
courts, no courts, hard true, you know, a hard surface. These are our options. The option for the hard surface means maybe we can have have the courts, I don't know. Because of the expense and the maintenance and,
But the tennis club was always pretty self-sustainable, correct? Or not?
Golf kind of supported tennis for a lot of years.
Maybe
But
not so
when
much
we
with the-
closed tennis, we had 300 members and we were pretty self-supporting at that time. But with only 4 courts, you'd have to close it off at 150, something
Or
like
you just
that.
have to call it a racket membership.
Yeah.
That's all in tennis, just
Yeah.
call it what it is.
mm-hmm.
The initial expense of the hard courts is a lot more than the hard true.
Okay.
It would take a number of years before you would catch up, even with your maintenance fees, maintaining the courts. You know, we run 25 to 30,000 a year to open 8 courts. If we open 4 courts, it would take a long time to catch up to what we would spend for a hard court.
Yeah.
Well,
So that's a decision down the road.
When it comes time, we can evaluate the numbers.
okay. Thanks, Tim.
I'll go fast.
Yeah, please. Anyway,
And I have one to add,
I didn't
sorry.
mean to, I didn't mean to like say, please. Lot to talk about there.
Flowers are in, baskets are up, planters are planted as of this meeting today, so
Nice.
see those two.
Congratulations.
Keep going, the only thing left to do is Village Hall. Suffolk County PD meeting, that was with the mayor and Barbara and Jimmy Burdacco with the inspector, deputy inspector, and Sean Murtha, the lieutenant of the crime unit. And it was our annual meeting to discuss our needs, what they can provide, and the whiskey tour is coming back as of Memorial Day weekend, staying through to end of September. So everybody's on board, working together, it's all positive. Arbors for the tree committee, Rebecca was talking about getting the tree committee together, that's for street trees. And I spoke to an arborist that I know that would be happy to join into that committee potentially. He's available and would be happy to help out in giving us his opinion when necessary for type of tree, any trees that need major trimming. I brought up the one on Thompson.
Mhm.
Everybody knows the big branch
It
that
got
goes
done.
across. Oh, is it done?
Yeah,
There we go.
yeah.
By our guys, or
That was a question that I had, but
do you know?
but
It's all done.
they left the higher limb across, and so it still has that very romantic sweep to it. But now the lower limb that was being hit, and it looks great. I'm gonna send an email to you.
Perfect.
Saw it today.
So he's available if we do need him moving forward with the tree committee.
But he would charge a consultant fee.
Yes,
For yes.
an hourly fee.
Yeah. So yeah. Well, it's
Do we have I'm sorry to interrupt you. We have a tree contract, right? Who's that with?
Yeah.
Well, we have it, funny you bring that up, Quintal, we had a 3-year, we went out to bid.
Yeah.
And we signed for 3 years, they just notified me that they can't, continue because they can't maintain the pricing that they did 2 years ago, we have 1 year left.
Well, how can they do
So-
that if we're in contract?
Let's see what their reason is for trying to bust it. I don't know,
Price
I'll look
of
at the
gas
contract.
and cost of everything, you know,
Yeah.
That's the
2
beauty of
years
being in a
ago.
contract.
Yeah, right,
2 years
exactly.
ago in COVID, I guess, so it just, I
It's not usually
notified
an exit,
Steve,
but-
yeah.
Yeah.
Just got it.
You know what, we decided we wanna go lower, so
Right.
we're gonna
Yeah.
pass the contract and go
Right.
somewhere else.
This doesn't work for me anymore.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
It's all right.
Yeah, so yeah, I mean, we'll keep that in mind, but my hope is that the tree committee can, be self-sustaining largely, but maybe as they're getting their feet on the ground or whatever it is.
If we can get somebody on the committee volunteer that has that experience,
Oh,
that'd be
that-
even better.
That would be fantastic, and maybe he'd be willing to throw, you know, an hour,
Right.
you know, a quarter towards, you know, towards the committee, cause is he a resident here?
Mm-mm.
No.
No. Tucker House walkthrough, that was, really interesting. So we were able to get in the house, we showed up with the restoration, I forget her title, restoration.
I can't remember.
Specialize in historic restorations,
That's
interior
it.
work.
That's what's on her card,
Yeah, okay.
historic restoration.
And when we all got there, we forgot how secured we made the house.
Oh.
So we were able to, luckily, Mr. Butera was there, Anthony Butera had some tools in his truck, pried open the doors and the planks of wood. We went in, and they were able to ascertain, you know, some extent of the work that needs to be done. But the real original part of the house was on the other side, and we couldn't get in there without going upstairs into a bathroom, put a ladder and climb through a hole in the wall to get through to the other side.
God,
Oh yeah, I
Wow.
have pictures, it's pretty cool.
what the hell?
Yeah, but that's where the original beehive oven is,
Wow.
and the original kitchen, so it was very, very cool. So she's, in fact, I reached out to her today, we're waiting for her to give us the estimate that we can then move forward with getting the monies to complete the purchase. So, in fact, today the exterior estimator was there for the siding and roofing.
Yeah,
And
Rich met him.
Rich met him this morning, so putting that together with what Mary provides us with the interior, we should have some solid numbers.
Good.
And they're
Yeah.
taking the current siding off to expose or.
Most likely, that would be up to the experts how and.
Unless it's original clap, if they get to the original clapper.
We could see behind that
Yeah.
a lot of the original is there. In fact, they
Yeah.
found a nail and Mary was able to identify the nail. It was a square head.
Mhm.
Oh, I learned a ton of that morning. And she said the corrosion on it was there, but sometimes you could see the printing underneath, so she had, Nick Akampora take that nail to kind of identify and keep it. And he says, as we go through the process and we start taking pieces down, those are very important to kind of, time when that portion was built
Yeah.
up. So it was interesting and that's moving forward, so we're happy about that. Traffic on Lowell, I met a resident out there on a Saturday morning. These are starting to pop up a lot now, I think because of the growth in the spring. It was the line of sight, left to right, as well as the speeding in the hill, and we want a stop sign, and that was one where Steve said, you know, probably not. I did go that following week with Steve to go up and look, and we had some ideas on cutting back, and we've been talking to one of the neighbors. Usually what Steve says is, you know, we ask the neighbor to do the cutting, because if DPW does it, they're not, you know, artists, and so we give them that opportunity, but if they want DPW to handle it, they'll do it. So we're working on that street and intersection. Code union negotiations are finally done. Yay.
Report
I'm
on,
looking at Barbara, it's
report
been a
on,
long haul.
report on, in
In
exec.
exec.
Okay.
Yep, chief interviews continue, we'll report then too. Mather traffic light, Mather Hospital in part of their redo of the emergency center is putting up a traffic light on North Country Road at their entrance. with pro-
Temporarily or?
No, permanently. It's part of their,
Was that part of the planning board?
Part of the site plan.
part of the site plan.
Huh.
So I met up there with Steve and them, for just to make sure the crosswalks were where they were supposed to be, the, traffic lights and timing. So Steve is aware, can make sure the cones are out, and for safety purposes, they're gonna slide the lane over so their traffic won't be, halted on that road while they do the construction, so that's all in the works. Brook Road sidewalk, I met with the school
Quick
district up
question
there.
about the Matthew property?
Yeah.
They had a hearing at the planning board, on the 11th
Okay,
for a temporary entrance.
on which street?
That's what I'm asking.
I don't know.
Anyone at the planning board meeting?
I was, because my property is congruent and
Oh, yeah.
everything is internal. There's nothing changing for the outside. They told us everything was internal.
So they-
Every change would be internal.
The temporary entrance that they needed approval for?
I I can tell you that they said that everything was internal.
Right, so are you talking about now they wanna use Belter Road? As their main entrance?
Signs up,
Sign.
Yeah, I
all
think
around
they're
the
using
property.
like how we went into the ribbon cutting, the groundbreaking.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how you now are entering the main parking lot. Because you gotta go all the way around, like there's a road that goes all the way around the outside of the parking
I
lot.
mean, that gated road,
Yeah, so like,
I didn't enter that, the Belterra side, I
oh,
entered
okay, you went in the
into
main road?
the North Country side,
Yeah, so the Belter will become the main entry for a little while. Because the parking lot, there's like a grade issue, and the parking lot, the brand new parking lot where the helicopter pad
Yeah.
is, you know, so that's, I think, where they wanna direct visitor traffic and everything else while they build the wing.
Oh, are they closing off the North Country entrance?
I don't know if they're gonna do it while they're putting the traffic light on, but I'll ask,
I didn't see that, but
They did say at the end of Brook Road, they're going to do, the end of the entrance on Belterre, they're going to do a valet
Mhm.
parking area.
for
That was,
people,
that was
visitors.
the main discussion while we were there.
I drove around that day before, I was a little early, so I drove around the entire, well, before the event, I drove around, cause I didn't know exactly where the event was happening.
Yeah.
And I drove around the entire parking lot, it's pretty impressive, if you guys just take the time to go in there and drive around, but you'll see that it's completely disconnected from the lower lot, from the older lot.
Yes, yeah.
So they're probably gonna switch now to open up the new lot and use the lower lot for the staging of the construction. So we'll follow up with Rich. And Barbara, can you follow up with Rich and send us?
if I remember correctly,
details.
the traffic light construction starts on the 22nd, I think was the date they gave us, of this month, Yeah.
So they probably wanna get that traffic light up and create that new entrance, and then they'll shift everything back to the North Country Road.
How are we
Entrance.
alerting the community to that one?
Well, again, Barbara will give us some insight as to what we need to do, and we'll make a little meme and post it and
Like on
do what we
social?
usually do, yeah.
Memes for people.
What?
No, memes are usually like
Make it
satirical
fun,
or yeah.
Well, I
fun,
mean,
yeah.
a little announcement, please be advised, the entrance to Math
Maybe
will
we
no
can get
longer
a
be on North
cartoonist like
Country,
Steve
use
with
the Belter
flags
Road
or
or
there we
something.
go.
Right?
Love it. Love it.
Brook Road sidewalk, was up there with the school district and their contractor, and Steve Gallagher they were measuring out, putting in the sidewalk to get a firm estimate. That would be on the south side of Brook Road from, the lower portion of the baseball field up to the upper portion of the football field. So that's really on the school, but as liaison to the school, just bringing that to everybody's attention and we'll.
Right, so you're just pricing that out right now, right?
They are, yes,
The
The
school
school.
district is
Got it.
pricing out the sidewalk, the
Correct.
cost of the sidewalk.
correct. Very interested in putting that in,
And they're likely to get a grant or something for that, yeah.
possibly. Yep, they have to get the price first.
So while you're on the school, can we talk a little bit about the Scraggy roadway too, the issues they're facing and
Sure.
it sounds like you met with Suffolk County Police, your, I guess, annual thing, and did that come up in that discussion?
No, because Scraggy came up after a meeting.
Okay, so how do we bring that to the police, Suffolk County Police's attention to try and help?
Well, we talked about the speeding, somebody had complained about the scooters going really fast, the kids on the scooters.
That,
We brought that to their
The
attention
scooters
that
we
day,
did, but
but
not
we didn't
the
talk
bus
about
Scraggy,
the,
right?
Yes.
yeah, but we didn't talk about what happened when they had their
Motorists
event or
blowing through
whatever.
well, motorists are blowing through signs, they're speeding back and forth, and
But there
it's
was an issue
happening-
with parking as well, right?
Yeah, I mean, but that's not Suffolk County Police,
Right.
that's code
Internal.
and potentially a community relations action,
Right.
right? But with the police.
The speeding, yes, they said they would add that to their patrols in the meeting.
And we asked about the helmet, if they could clarify if there was legislation pending about the requirement of those motorized scooters requiring helmets. Cause they're going fast.
Yeah.
These kids are going
I
fast.
believe he said, didn't he say right now they're being treated as bicycles?
Well, a resident, I think
Even though they're
I,
motorized.
Yeah,
I think I forwarded to you, Kathy, and a resident had sent me, there is some law about a speed limit for motorized scooters or like motorized bicycle, whatever it is, so.
for speed,
Yeah, I don't know if they,
but that would be Suffolk.
yeah, but if, I don't know if you forwarded that to them or.
No, cause I'm waiting to hear back from them, they were gonna check what they could do and
Okay.
couldn't do and what the new law is on those, because now that they're becoming more popular, there could be new legislation out there. In fact, you had brought up to them that you were aware of some legislation and didn't know if it
Yeah,
had
I
gotten
asked them
signed
to
yet.
clarify if they,
Can't change anything.
they said right now they're
Vehicle
just treating them
traffic
like
law.
bicycles, so I said,
To
well,
be a motorized vehicle.
It was a helmet
we
issue.
used to have a program with them where they would stop a kid and give them a ticket, remember, if they weren't wearing their helmet, or if they were wearing their helmet, and then there was a ticket to get free ice cream at the, just to educate the kids.
Motorcycles,
But,
like, motorbikes, like
And even Fred had
bicycles.
those
It's
challenge
age
boards more recently as they were
It's
interacting.
age
We still have
18 and
some.
below, you can
Yes,
wear
we
a
do.
helmet with
So
lights.
let's clarify that though, and see if,
Don't have to above it.
you know, I think the other issue is there's all sorts of events going on at that Scraggy Field.
Yep.
And, you know, we don't know when they are, we need a little bit tighter
Calendar.
coordination with the district when they need extra help. And ask for Suffolk to be there, I mean, I don't know if they're doing that. Are you gonna, did you have another meeting with them? I know do you meet quarterly, or how often are you meeting with
For
them?
district safety?
Yeah.
That should probably be coming up in another,
Because,
another month or so.
I'm just wondering how much, you know, Fred Coble used to handle versus this new guy.
They're overlapping right now. Fred's
Yeah.
still there.
Okay, good, so,
I think he's done at the end of this year.
okay.
Okay.
I mean, Jessica wrote that she would send a notification out to all the parents about the parking concerns. But people are running out of their car to get to the concert because they're late, you
Yeah.
know, and they're gonna park there. And you don't really want code to be ticketing parents who are going in, and their grandparents that are going in to watch their.
Right, but you need to have a safe roadway, you know, so, I mean, it's.
Maybe the
like a-
code could just kind of be there
Yeah, as a
for like
precaution.
45 minutes
Yeah.
or so.
But again, I have no idea when those events are, so we need
Yeah.
to know, so we can help.
And the police monitoring, at least for, like, just to have an awareness that the people on the roadway who are speeding and blowing through that stop sign have an awareness that there is a police presence once in a while, so they, you know, or else you're gonna get one of those stop sign,
Red
you
light
know,
traffic
red light
ticket
traffic
things.
ticket things. You know, those are coming.
Everyone loves those.
Right.
It was on the cover of Newsday today.
Yeah.
No ticketing cameras on stop signs.
I was,
They're putting cameras on stop signs.
Their village is Saddle Rock. They're gonna get sued for that.
Mm.
Don't publish that. They're gonna get sued. They have no state they have no state authorizing legislation. The mayor came out and admitted it. The first, I don't wanna write
Alright.
Just, we don't do dangerous things.
Yeah.
We don't do responsible things.
Yeah.
You get like that vigilante who started cutting the camera cords.
Yeah,
on the,
that guy.
on the-
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, that works. Tomorrow's school bond vote and board elections, just a notice. Economic development, we had a meeting with the bid and the chamber, it was our quarterly, meeting.
you vote in the high school cafeteria for that, or at your polling place?
High school
school
cafeteria.
cafeteria.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Okay, no problem.
Economic Development Committee is something that we're working on with the bid and the chamber. They requested that we put a group together, suggested some players for that, and Kevin and I are still discussing moving forward. Parking, what did I have for parking?
What's that?
I have parking on here, but I don't recall what I
Probably
was
just
discussing about parking.
passport.
The
First
CVS,
weekend.
that signage up at CVS?
Oh, CVS lot, that we're ready for the digital
So
sign
we're
up there?
Yeah, we're at phase 1 of 3. Second phase is cutting in the actual sensors into the asphalt, which will be done tomorrow.
Okay.
Third phase is installing the actual signs.
Cool.
But
So there'll
tests are great, it looks great.
There'll be two there, one will be at the corner of Liberty and
Right.
112, so you'll be able to see that coming in. And the other one is
Barnum.
on Barnum. As you're coming around the corner, it'll be to the right-hand side.
Yep.
So you'll see it
Perfect.
coming and.
People are doing their loops trying to
I
find
think they're
parking.
gonna do the loop and come
They'll
right
see,
back
hey,
there.
I got available parking, you just gotta stroll into town.
Plantings at Barnum look beautiful, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, the irises are
Great.
ready to pop, or they are popping.
Very nice.
Yeah, they're beautiful, thank you. And the Girl Scouts came by and did a tour of Village Hall the other day. I was fortunate enough to be able to show them around, and what they were very impressed by was how many girls
Aw.
support and work at Village Hall. And they met one guy that was Danny O'Connell up in the
Wow.
upstairs office, but every other office, Kevin wasn't here, so every other office, it was girl after girl after girl. And they said, it takes a lot of girls to run Village Hall. So it was
What
very cute.
age were those guys?
On the-
They were about 12 to 14-ish.
Nice,
Yeah,
nice.
yeah, they loved it.
Nice.
They all got to sit, upstairs in the mayor's and judge's seat and play with the gavel and get their pictures taken, so that was a lot of fun. And they got
And
the
a
lunch bags.
predominantly village board.
What's
Female-
that?
And a predominantly female village
Yeah, they
board.
noticed that on the pictures,
Yes.
and everybody was great with them. All the employees were great and explained what they did at their desks and how things work, and yeah, it was good. So super
It's a lot of fun always helping the kids.
They're cute.
It's a good part of the job.
that's it.
Okay, oh, sorry, Stan. We're on to you, and you already gave your report on Bluff. Thank you so much. Reclaim Water and Country Club Financials.
Reclaim Water, we kind of covered that. Like I said, we've got the approval now to go forward with Doug Smith, so the project can go forward. The plan, I think everyone knows, we're trying to capture the water out of that runway that goes down between the old homestead and hole number 8.
Say the word that you always say. I love that word.
Sleuthway.
Sleuthway. Yeah, spell it. It's challenging.
Sleuce. Way.
No, wrong already. The financials up at the country club, we're doing very, very well. We have 603 members. This came from Denise. We are over budget on a lot of lines to the point of $121,000. But we are over revenue
There you go.
by $540,000. So
Stan, does that combine the year, last year's to this year, right?
No, this is from June 1st,
2022
22 to the,
to the end of May,
well, no, it's not to the end of May
or
yet.
to date.
It's to May 11th,
Yeah,
was the last report I got.
so it's inclusive of all the revenue from.
It's inclusive of everything, it includes the encumbered expenses.
So the actual budget
To the
ends up
tune
looking
of,
like.
right now, we are $419,726 to the good. So we still got 2 weeks to go for salaries and a few expenses out there, but we also have 2 weeks to go on revenue.
Great.
We're having a good year.
Thanks. Excellent.
Rebecca.
Alright. So down at the Port Jeff Village Beach Street Community Garden, we have our first educational event of the year. There's a woman nearby who has a group called Guard Hens, so she does chicken, farming and raising as well, but also has a talk sort of focusing on just being self-sufficient as far as planting, growing food for yourself. So it's a good sort of
I think we need chickens like that.
I mean, maybe eventually. We'll talk about it. But again, for any residents who are interested in starting off, and I hope to have her back to have a chicken-focused event, for community members interested. But this is sort of a gardening 101, which is a great way to start off the year for new gardeners. And again, this is not just for those that have garden beds at Beach Street. This is for anybody in the community, even beyond Port Jeff Village. It's free to all, and just a great way to meet fellow gardeners or interested gardeners. So that's this Wednesday at 6:30. Climate resilience survey. We ended up with about 30 survey results. I really appreciate all the communications folks pressing that as much as possible. So those 30 residents made their voices heard. Compagnie Sporting and myself and the PAC committee will assess the results and report back when we have a general sense of what people are saying and what direction to go. This past Wednesday, I attended in our own beautiful village center a coastal erosion forum put on by New York Sea Grant, and it was really interesting. Had different presenters talking about different erosion control and flooding and green projects and gray infrastructure, and at the end of the day, it sort of all amounted to a conversation about long-term planning and how, you know, no matter what one does, looking at the projections of sea level rise and all of this, we should be now thinking about strategic retreat, along all coastlines, and what financially that looks like, what socially that looks like, in communities. And so nobody left feeling great from the summit because it's tough. It's one of these very overwhelming conversations, but as overwhelming as it is, it's important to be having a voice. On a village level, there were county legislators there were homeowners association representatives, so everyone's just kind of trying to look at this and work together, and we all kind of agreed that getting this information together and then talking to state and federal agencies is really going to be the thing to do, so we have a coordinated effort to figure it out. But anyway, that's I don't know, you always hope to leave something like that feeling like, yeah, let's do this, and we're all just like, yeah, but it's but at the same time, there's scientifically there's something to do, or not to do, and then there's the human element of it, of the emotional attachment or other attachments to properties.
Yeah, and then we had that Zoom
Great.
with
That was
Nicole
energizing.
Christian
That was
and some graduate students from Bard College, and they're working on a model when you're doing a retreat plan to identify the assets and assign them value so that you can go through, because that's something that we had to do on the Bluff when we were doing for this application for phase 2. We had to give a retreat plan and give them the costs for retreat, take the building down, all this other stuff. So, but they're developing like a matrix, and I was like, why isn't there any AI that's already invented the algorithm for this stuff? You know what I mean? But it was really good.
Probably, yeah.
Really good Zoom session, and this is where everybody's heads are right now. They're all in like resiliency, retreat versus and reinforce, or all these other things. And if you're looking for any of the state money or any of this funding, you're gonna have to have all these analyses done.
Yeah, well, yeah, and those spreadsheets, those matrices were so exciting because it not only looks at it right now, but it amortizes things over 30 years. And so that is really helpful because when you look at these projects, about how long are they projected to last, and then when you get to the end of the life of a infrastructure project, then what are the costs going to be, and this and that, and so and what's the cost of not doing a project? So I'm definitely going to follow up with them and make sure that as soon as those are publicly available to use, they are in our hands here. And then the last thing I forgot to put on here, we had sort of made a deadline for the election task force. I have 7 residents who are interested in, so I have their names and email addresses. I can share them with the board, but my thought is to draft an email. I'll send that to the board to get any comments, whatever, and then send that email to the interested members to essentially say, here are the questions that we're looking to answer. Here are each other's email addresses, and go. And not give them any other parameters. Not say
Maybe a timeline. Maybe give them a timeline or when date or recommendations might.
Let them come up with the questions and that they want answered, and let them come up with the timeline.
Well,
and let them.
We as a board ended up with a series of questions. So we can give the questions as a scaffolding if they have more questions, if they want to alter it, whatever. But I think just sort of giving them minimal structure, but structure enough to get the conversation going, and then internally planning their meetings and communicating, and essentially it's come back to us when you want any kind of if you have a question for us, and otherwise let us know when you have recommendations for us to review. And does anyone have any thoughts about that process?
I'd give them some kind of an outside deadline. I mean, I don't think it's going to go too far, but they could wait until 2 days before the next election, and I'd be like, thanks so much, but we'll see you next year because it's too late for us to do something by local law amendment. So we might want to just give them, there's plenty of runway right now, but give them
I think like 6 months.
Yes, at the outside, because you really want to be able to have your local laws in place. You got to plan for it. They're going to know the political calendar for next year from the Board of Elections. it could, you know,
And-
there is rumblings that March is going to be a problem for
6
villages
months would
because
be
there's
too long.
potentially for primaries then,
Right.
again, now next year.
More primaries in March?
Yeah,
How
so,
many,
So they have to, how are the residents gonna know all this stuff? We don't even know all this stuff,
that's,
so.
the primaries is gonna be an unanswered question. It's gonna
Yeah.
be settled eventually, but it definitely is an open question right now, that it could move to March,
So I'd say 3 months then, just in case.
New York primaries.
well, I guess we could say 3 months
The
and then,
legislature
you know,
wants to, Albany in its wisdom, I'm sorry.
No, I was gonna say, you know, maybe 3 months, comma, you know, if you're getting towards 3 months and you need more time, obviously take more
I think
time,
that's a
but.
good idea.
Or if you say, we need the report and recommendations by such and such a time in order to act on it before the election.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
let them take their, you know, but understand the deadlines that are significant
Right,
in
so
the
Brian,
process.
if you would send
I would say 90 is a good idea, maybe 120. I mean, there's no, these comp questions are not going to be,
Okay,
they're fairly finite questions, right? Where it's not,
sure.
you know, the electoral college.
Well-
It's a fairly finite question.
Um,
When do you want to have the elections, and what do you want to do about terms? That's pretty much it.
How many people
You
do we
make
have?
it sound so simple.
Yeah, well, you know, I'm a simple person. I like simple.
yep, and
And by
then-
the way, the second question may be completely out of our hands again, because Albany, you know, who we didn't see in the legislative budget, but I saw the working draft and I couldn't believe it that they want to move the primary to March.
So
which
then
was-
we'd have machines in June again?
Yeah, which you could potentially, well, no, because you'll have local primaries then, but you'll have federal primaries in March because
So you don't get machines.
those people in charge don't live in villages. The people in charge live in New York City. And they don't have villages, so they don't care about when a March election is. And when I saw the draft, I said, NICOM didn't even know it. And I said, you guys know that they're talking about a March primary because they want to be first in the nation, right? You know, everybody talks about Iowa caucuses. Well, now they're talking about New Hampshire. Now they want to be New York in the game because South Carolina moved theirs up. And I go, you guys can move this right into March. You guys understand you're putting an enormous footprint right on top of all the villages that are running in a statutory March election that you guys set by election law. Oh, huh. It didn't go anywhere in the legislative session, but I'm going to guarantee it's going to come back. So I don't know.
There's something I read in NICOM too that allowed for November elections. for
You
villages.
can move it to other times, but nobody does on
Village.
November. Yeah.
Not the village.
Yeah, you
So
can.
the election law is weird because election law has March and June as, but since March is the set, can vary by local law, which means you can move it to June. You can also move it by local law to other dates. Southampton is a month behind us in June.
Yeah.
It's closer to July.
And then there's a mention of November.
Yeah, it's
You
not
could
clear.
do November as well with the general election.
Yeah, which is a mistake.
Yet when you go to the NICOM meetings,
The meetings, they say
don't
no.
state that.
Yeah.
But
I saw the
law
opposite
does.
in the NICOM book.
Yeah.
No, not November.
March and June are the main
Village.
dates.
So I get, this
Says
this
November.
leads me to ask Ben in sort of giving any resources to this resident committee, who can they reach out to on village staff, or, you know, to ask questions, to garner.
Well, it's part of the reason why I think we should really keep their charge, their mission down to a couple of questions, because that could become a very expensive research project if it goes, you know, awry.
Well, but that's why I'm asking. Is,
So Southampton people are, I'm working to
They still
get
have it,
their results report and their process document. So I've been connected to somebody else.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to get a hold of that, and that could be a nice guideline, right?
Sure, and that would just get passed right on to the committee. So
Yeah.
we'll let them, you know, whatever. But so I'll draft that. Everyone's comfortable with the process. I'll draft the email, send it to the board for comment, and then I'll send the email. You know, please respond even if you have no comment. Just say good to go, and then I'll send it out to the residents, and they'll be off to the races. Good. Cool. Okay. That's it. That's what I got.
Thanks, Rebecca.
All right.
My turn?
Mhm.
So the one thing that I have on the agenda today is sort of a panel I've written and invited residents to participate in.
I am recusing myself, and again, this is my own choice to recuse myself. NICOM said I do not need to, but again, for resident confidence, I am choosing to recuse myself.
Are you coming back?
No.
There's no confidential
No, no,
information.
the cookies, the cookies wouldn't come back
So-
for.
Rebecca, can you leave that door open, please? This isn't a
It's
private,
an open meeting.
Oh.
yeah.
this is an open
Yeah.
meeting.
Drama, you know?
So it's just, it's sort of a crowdsourcing, information gathering piece that can inform what residents are experiencing on all, a 360 approach to what residents are experiencing with long-term, short-term Airbnb and B&B rentals in their neighborhoods, whether it's a resident who has illegal apartments that they would like to figure out how to rent so that they can actually stay in their home.
Excuse me. Sorry.
Because they can't afford their home,
Blew my hair
or whether it's a resident in a neighborhood which has an Airbnb that is really kind of driving them crazy because there's new people in and out, people are having pool parties in the neighborhoods and they don't appreciate it. So inviting all voices to the table to sort of talk through the issues and better understand them to potentially inform some code change or zoning change or code change.
Coach.
Just I mentioned it in a meeting, a recent meeting, that Town of Brookhaven had 2 public hearings on this, and it was held over for they did not have a vote on the
It's very controversial.
Very
yeah,
controversial.
very controversial.
And
A lot
very
of
difficult conversation.
different areas and
Yep.
nooks and crannies and these.
Yeah.
And motivations.
Yeah. So, and some are none to be judged. Like on the face of it, on the surface of it, better to understand what people are experiencing in their real life and in their neighborhoods, and to try and gather a little empathy for both sides.
Also, we had a lot of discussion prior to you being a board member, which led to the 2 draft resolutions or proposed code changes that we were ready to go to public hearing on, except for the fact that there was a concern that you brought the challenge on the trustee that left the
It was a conflict of
room.
interest,
Right,
because
which-
she was a
which-
business owner.
Understood, but it turned out that really didn't pan out, but that's okay, but it kind of delayed our process of bringing that to hearing, because it is a concern for the neighborhoods and the safety and the well-being of, the communities, and Rich, we went back and forth to a big, because you can't please everybody, right? And that's not, we're not gonna be doing our jobs well if we're looking to please everybody, but I think we did come up with at least some baby steps in terms of making a change to like something like a 90-day if I because right now you get a rental permit for a 1-year rental. There's no shorter timeline for that, so it's very black and white. We did that when we were having the issues with the Stony Brook University campus housing, and now the world has changed. We got Airbnb and VRBO and all that other stuff. So I think there are 2 recommendations to look at the rental code and then also look at the Airbnb or the bed and breakfast code to make changes to that. So we can either just go right to hearing on the rental one, which I think the modification was nothing shorter than 90 days, which I think is really similar to where the town was trying to land on their rental, but
Yeah, but Fire Island was like.
Exempt.
Oh, exempt, right.
We exempted
Well, it's
Fire
exempt.
Island. Yeah.
And are there?
That was a carve out from there.
So those are good questions too. Like maybe, I don't know.
What questions?
Is there? I don't know. I just want to hear what the residents say. Like what the
Yeah, but
residents
isn't that
are
the purpose of a
saying.
public hearing?
Yeah, I mean,
Isn't
we
that the
always,
process?
Yeah, we like, that's my favorite word, process.
Process.
They like process, I like process. We have a essentially stage-ready local law. So we can have that if we want. Just have the public hearing.
And my understanding is when Rich helped build that law, that was one based out of Southampton, that he
It
actually, it is, that he has been very successfully using out there, or had
Yes.
been
So it's 2
They're able
parts.
to now enforce, basically.
Yep.
able to enforce.
It's 2 parts. The way where this left off the last time was that there really had to be a change to the bed and breakfast law, because that opened up way too many loopholes for potentially reclassifying people's properties if they're going to rent them. And every village is taking a different approach to Airbnb. Southampton's is a good idea, but I think, along the lines of what Lauren is suggesting, if we have different voices come in and say, look, this is exactly a replay of what the town of Brookhaven's hearings were, 90 days is too short, 2 weeks is too long. My people like to stay for weekends. Can I rent every weekend? You should only really rent 5 weekends during the summer. So everybody was like, you heard from everybody saying, don't have it at all in my neighborhood too. I needed to survive, and it's keeping me in my home.
And owner occupied is
Yeah.
one of the big things we were talking
Owner
about.
occupied.
Oh, we
was the
don't, right
biggest.
now, we don't have code for an ancillary apartment,
Correct.
period.
And part of the problem that I'm facing is just, as a matter of fact, this weekend, on my way up to pick my daughter up from college, I was getting complaints about a rental that has a rental permit currently. They didn't. They rectified, they got the permit, but they're renting it out as an Airbnb, and there's been major, major problems with the surrounding neighbors. But there's nothing we can do about it because this code now just sits. So.
Well, no, not really, because they have to have an annual, they can't rent for less than a year. So, but what needs to happen is you need evidentiary proof that they're actually advertising, so you have to have, the code has to outline some things that we need to get as evidence that they're listed as an Airbnb, they're being, so there were, the town's code actually brought in fines for realtors who are advertising or anybody who's advertising, so, we could look at modifying it so that we have more teeth in our code for enforcement. It's all about enforcement.
Yeah.
But, I think
And layer that also on top of the difficulty that this department has historically had on trying to enforce rental permits, period.
Yeah.
right.
And this village is like the last village to enact the rental permit law. And it's only because of the pressure of the town of Brookhaven enforcing all the Stonybrook rentals that forced all the Stonybrook rentals into the village.
So, but in the other, so what you have is you need to make sure you have enforcement clear across the board, but you
Mhm.
also have notorious landlords, because we had
Right.
Graziano,
Right?
who was putting his property into a different LLC
Yep.
every 6 months, so Rich couldn't find who to sue.
Right.
Now the law changed in New York that if it's a sole proprietor LLC, the individual's name and social security number also have to be on the transfer document, so these individuals can't hide behind these corporate curtains anymore. So, it's, I think what we'll hear from the community is, what we've been hearing from the community is that either I wanna legalize it or I don't want it in my neighborhood. And it's a really careful balancing act, so, I think, I would recommend taking a baby step and maybe holding back the Airbnb, the bed and breakfast one, because the bed and breakfast one is the one that we really, when we started looking at it, we were like, oh my God, there is nothing that would stop me or anybody downtown from renting an apartment in a mixed, either in an all apartment building or in a mixed, retail apartment above, 24/7. No, nothing restricting that. Is that what we want? If we want that, maybe we incentivize the C1 and the C2 to be that, so that you can have Airbnbs in these apartments and put it where the turnover is instead of in the neighborhoods where people don't want this impact on their community. So,
And
that's
a
the
fine
one that
line.
gets really tricky.
Right, and that's a fine line, because look at, I could speak as a housing prosecutor. 25 years ago, I was a housing prosecutor for 10 years in the village of Patchogue. One man's fancy B&B is another man's SRO, single room occupancy. And that's exactly what it happens, right? What's the difference between a nice bed and breakfast? Muffins and nice curtains? But still you've got a single room lockout without a kitchen. That's an SRO, any other definition. And SROs, single room occupancies, are illegal. SROs have other nicknames, like flop houses and those kind of things, which you're not supposed to rent rooms. That's illegal under the fire code. But, we the village of Port Jefferson, which Patchogue borrowed the bed and breakfast code for Port Jeff, because it was very good,
Right.
put in a lot of additional regulations, as we saw from the hearings on the bed and breakfast a couple of years ago. There were a lot of regulations had to go on. It had to keep a book. It had to be open to the booking book. It had to be open for
Sales
inspection.
tax, you
It
get to
had-
review their sales
had to
tax
go to the
revenue.
the county hotel tax revenue, all those filings. So there are good regulations for a bed and breakfast that does not allow it to turn into an SRO. But again, one person's SRO is one person's bed and breakfast. So I agree with you, Mayor. I think that if we left out the bed and breakfast component, had the stage, circulate the stage-ready local law that was almost ready for public hearing last time. Have
It was,
those
I think
voices,
we were ready
for
yeah,
public
you're
hearing.
right, oh, it was ready. Have it come for a public hearing and have the people give their opinions A, B, and C.
And then just like what happened, you know, you can say, okay, great, this was good, at least we brought it to you people in this forum. You don't have to take an action on it, but then you can either modify it or, you know, take a baby step in that direction.
Belport's question, when Belport had theirs, it ripped apart, that went through local law, public hearing, commission, they had a commission that went through it, recommendation, and then they ultimately didn't even adopt it.
Right.
It was a disaster for them, it all came down to the timing during the summertime. Like what was the length of an acceptable
Right.
P&P? And
Where did that happen?
Oh, that was 3 years ago.
Where?
Belport,
Oh.
Belport Village. Because they have a like us, they have a very popular summertime rental community and a good, kind of goodish downtown, but they have
We don't really have
Tourists.
this is not like a transient rental. Like people will say, hey, do you have any like summer rentals? Like, no. I mean,
yeah.
we don't. I mean, you know, some investors would like it to be that way, but you know, we don't want it to be that way.
Investors are definitely looking at that. They're
No, I
looking at the
understand
rental
that,
permit to do that. But Belport had the experience of the weekend, 3-day minimums, what's a minimum stay that people should have? And is it every day? Is that a hotel? I'm living next door to a hotel that's coming in every weekend.
Right.
You know, well, I need to be there. You know, no one's gonna rent for a week, because no one is gonna rent for a week. Everyone's there for a wedding or whatever.
So it has to, you know, and the other thing is if there is somebody who's got a particular, you know, because we've run into is the neighbor doesn't want to rat out the neighbor, right? But if they have evidence or scars or they see there's a log or there's an advertisement or, you know, then that needs to be enforced and it needs to be broken up because that's not, you know, what our people expect of their, you know, neighborhoods. But my recommendation would be to go to public hearing on the one for the rental of the annual rental permit, because I think it does say that you could have is it a 90-day?
I have to look again. It's been a while, but yeah, I think it was shorter than that actually, but I'm not sure.
Well, why don't we kick it around to everybody and
Yeah.
see if there's
Okay.
tolerance. Otherwise, you know, it's definitely a hot topic, but like you can see, I think that's part of the problem is you'll have a hearing and then you'll hear from all these diverse groups and then you'll be like, wow. It's a really complicated balancing act. And I think the key, my thing is, I think the key is permitting the Airbnbs to happen in certain areas that you want to, like the RO is a perfect, you know, the zone between downtown and uptown, C1 and C2 districts, the RO zone. It's like a dead corridor, right? It's like you have like some of these houses that have been, you know, like an old dentist's office, and now it's kind of like, you know, if you incentivize Airbnb in that one zone, you might get a lot of new redevelopment in that area where you have larger, you know, parcels, and you're not abutting, you know, other people's yards. It's more of like like it's in between commercial stretch.
Somewhat developed parking lots
Yeah.
on that zone.
Yeah, so, you know, to help incentivize redevelopment or, you know, add more value to those areas that you'd like to see something going on. There are no hotels other than Danford's and the campus hotel. So would love to incentivize commercialism and see if that helps to kind of like add value to these properties that are kind of like, you know, just kind of like hanging out there, you know. But just my thoughts. But as I was thinking about it, and Rich and I were kicking it back and forth, and I was thinking, wow, there's no restriction from somebody renting out their apartment, like at the what's it called, the shipyard or above Main Street in any one of these mixed-use buildings. So, you know, it doesn't talk about apartments. You know, I don't have to get a 1-year rental for a permit for my apartment, for the apartments. So you gotta really think this through, like it's like rising water, right? As you block it in one area, it's gonna seep to the other area.
Yep.
So, but that's just my recommendation.
And nothing's to say that if we made any kind of a change and it doesn't work a year from now, when we're
Yeah.
starting to see a hole, we can
The code
Yep.
is meant to be
Right.
modified, because it's not meant to be.
So one other
Static
thing
thing.
that came up, so I'm gonna meet with these folks who signed up, cause it seems like they're
Great.
pretty interested in
Give
and
them
wanna
give them
engage.
the proposed code.
I can do that too.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Let them know this is how far we got, and
Yeah.
these are the questions.
I think that's a great idea.
I don't see any harm on that.
So I just got an email this afternoon from a resident who is on the corner of High Street and Myrtle Avenue. Southeast corner, Calvary's family.
Oh, right,
Right.
okay.
And he was interested in understanding the signs on High Street, on the north side of High Street. Because I guess we eliminated parking on that side of High Street, and now, like, the cars that used to park there are parking on, like, High Street across from his house. So he's having issues with
Well,
access.
that's a long walk.
It is, it's a long, that's what he said, he goes, it's a
Wow.
really long walk. Now, I'm raising it here because it
Goes to the rising water thing I just said.
Yeah.
You don't allow it here, it is, you're gonna find the next spot for it, right?
It's called a
Exactly.
chess match.
So, is it a Steve Gallagher, you know, do I, or is?
Who's parking there, do we
It's
know?
a code change to eliminate parking there. We eliminated parking on the other
No,
corner.
I understand that, but
yeah,
I'd
in the
love
line
to
of
know who's
sight.
parking there.
Oh, I don't
That they
know.
can't
Is it
park in their own
residents or-
driveway.
Right.
I think what he said was, and I haven't really looked at it, so maybe somebody could look at that, but, I think he said that house doesn't have a driveway. There's a house up there that maybe doesn't have a driveway. I drove past it and I didn't
Right.
know which one he was talking about, but
Okay.
maybe it's an excess car,
What side
vehicle.
are they parking on?
Across from him, so
They're
it'd be
parking
on your side
on the
of
west
Myrtle.
side.
On
the-
High Street, they're parking
On the
towards yours.
southwest side of High Street, they're parking, not parking on Myrtle, they're parking
On
on
High.
High Street, across
Southwest
from
side,
his
next to
from-
Carol Gordon.
across
Yeah,
from his
On
driveway.
your side of it.
Yeah.
Is the road wider there though? It kinda like opens up, right?
It's not the
Cause I think
smallest
part of
road
what
in the
Mr.
village.
Taglianone's complaint was, is that when you're coming out of William and those cars are parked, you have that hill on high,
Yes,
you really
yeah,
can't see who's
yeah.
coming up and over that hill.
Yep.
So if it's not a sightline thing, you can get Rebecca back in, yeah.
There's that house, Carol Gordon's house, has a rental upstairs,
Is it illegal too?
but I think so, it's been that way forever. But she has enough parking behind the house.
They have a driveway right behind, off of High Street, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah,
I left them in the hall.
it's a, it's a parking area, it's like, fits, I think, like 3 cars or so, it's enough cars. So
Yeah.
I'm curious to know who's, like you said, who is parking there?
Yeah.
Everybody has
Because
a
I noticed it a couple
Telltale
times.
signs. You know, or rental where you don't have, but so one of the things that,
This one.
you know, when you get your rental permit, you have to show that you have enough on-site
Right.
parking.
Yeah.
What,
You
the
know, you
regular
have to
dog
do a lot of
pepper?
things, and so that's the
Choices.
telltale sign, if
That's
somebody
right.
doesn't have a permit, because they didn't get to go do that parking path. Alright, we'll
But
bring that
there
to Steve's
is
attention.
there's a code or a law, I think it's a New York State law, that you can't park so many feet from the stop sign.
From an intersection.
From the intersection, so that alone, without doing a code change on adding no parking, just
Well,
that
we'll have to check
state
the,
law.
check the code, and then we'll have to check with Steve to see what signage is up there.
This is the south east
West.
corner, southwest corner.
Up west.
They're parking on the southwest corner of
Is
High.
it the pickup truck with the like lions, not sheep?
There is one, mm-hmm.
Yeah,
With the what?
it's got a sticker that says lions, not
15 feet
There's a,
from
there's a
the
pickup
area.
truck
Just the
and a
other color.
Subaru.
25.
Yeah.
15 feet from a
Yeah,
hydrant.
Yeah, and
45
those
from an
vehicles
Yeah.
used to be parked on the north side of Myrtle,
Right,
and now they've
of
migrated.
Myrtle and High Street.
Because
Where
we
the
made no
parking was
parking
blocked,
there.
yeah.
Everybody there has driveways that I'm.
Not the
remembering.
yellow house,
Which one?
the like mustard colored house at the corner of William and High.
Okay.
Don't they have like a short driveway and a garage there?
No, I know, like Jimmy White doesn't have a,
I think that's the
Driveway up there.
neighbors. I think,
parks up on a back street there, somebody gives him permission to park up there.
Yeah, well, he's also got the stairs, he
there's
could never park on
houses.
that road.
So should I bring that to Steve, or Barb bring that to Steve, or?
they're parking on William though, so I don't know why they just don't park there.
Very count, this is
Yeah.
it's already email. It's like a one-liner.
So
Yeah,
it's
I'll,
just
I'll,
that-
I'll describe
so
it,
they're
I'll
parking on
describe
the
it.
south-
Get the cars off my
Southwest
street.
Yeah, I'll describe it for you.
Email me
It was polite.
with the specifics then.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, and Steve will take a field trip, and then Brian will, what's the code say?
So, you know, from an intersection is 25 feet, from a hydrant it's 15. But we did change, I'm just looking at the overhead, we did change the parking on that question. We have to eliminate more parking.
I'm not suggesting, I mean,
Yeah.
you know. that's, but.
If they're parking within the 25 feet though, if it's where you're saying it is, that's within 25 feet of
That's
stop
code,
sign.
yeah, that's code.
I think, and that's also New York State.
Yeah, but
So it might
we
need
can write
signage that
that.
says no parking from here to the corner, which is gonna push it further away from
There might be
Ray.
a sign up there,
Anyway,
I
okay.
can't remember the picture.
Or paint the road.
Oh, boy.
I think that's part also to loop back in the beginning of the meeting. That's like that wide area of High Street that has no sidewalk, but it's so wide, like that would be a prime area to shift the center lane over and put sort of a non-vehicular lane in there. But again, then anybody who's parking on High Street would have to figure something
Yeah,
else
no
out.
parking for the corner.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's enforceable if they're in front of that. That's
But
probably the
they're
intersection.
behind it, so.
Oh, they're behind it.
Well, the Subaru is now, in the current situation, that's what it
Mm.
was.
So then are they just upset that someone's parked on the street?
It's his egress out of his driveway. It's like makes it hard for him to navigate.
And they're parking near the edge of his driveway.
The truck ends up being close to the edge of his driveway.
Maybe they could, are the spots painted there? Do they have painted
No.
spots there?
No.
Maybe that's something to think about.
Well, I don't know.
I don't know, but it controls parking though.
Okay.
Okay.
Back to the election
Yeah,
thing,
please.
Brian, I have a question. When I had mentioned the November, I found where it said that in NICOM. It said, however, a resolution switching the day of the village election to that of the general election in November can only take effect for an election in which its primary election is held more than 6 months after the resolution is adopted. In other words, when the
Primary?
village
Like
wishes to
first?
change
So
the date of the
primary
village
election
election to
in the village?
November, the resolution must be adopted 6 months prior to the date of the primary election.
By primary
So,
election, do they mean
yeah,
like
if
the-
there's a primary election, if a party ran, if a regular organized party ran.
So if we had a
in the village,
primary,
yeah,
then we could go
Republican,
to an
Democrat, yeah.
election 6 months after.
That's
that
just
they
saying
want.
that's the earliest you have to do it because you're then on the, if you do that, now you're on the party calendar.
Got it.
The major party
And
calendar.
we're not, and villages are not.
Right.
Thank
Yeah,
goodness.
Lost in the sauce. That
Yeah.
happens. Alright, so are we good with everybody's reports? You guys are working hard and awesome.
Clerk Sackovich.
Yep, well, we skipped Egan.
No, I'm good. I have just two things I want to talk about in exec
Okay, good.
litigation.
Next meeting is June 5th.
Two public hearings, as you stated.
What are the two, Brook Road and?
And the one we,
Oh, stop sign.
Okay,
for,
well, it's just
Old
fine.
Home.
I'm
Yeah.
glad to get these public safety issues.
We still
in front
have
of
two
everybody.
kayak spaces left, farmers
Wow.
market, it's fabulous.
Bustling.
Fabulous.
Good.
Can I just say, I was, my brother came down for Mother's Day, and he's now a code enforcement officer in Lake Luzerne, upstate, near Saratoga. And they have kayak rack issues, and I was like, oh, well, you know, so I was explaining about what Port Jeff does, and then they have zero code enforcement, no, not code, they have zero constables, so they can't enforce certain things, and I was like, damn, look at us, we're sitting pretty over here, we're doing a lot of things right, so it's fun to.
To get a pat on the back.
Yeah, yeah.
Alright, so motion to go into exec session at 5:26 to talk about 2 personnel matters and 2 litigation issues.
Three.
Great.
Quick.
Second by Shorty.